Fortunately, we all know what getaway from the cop speed looks like, but much like Baker, Ollie didn't have it. Although we now see why so many schools in the SEC were ready for Ollie, because they knew he was SEC ready.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we partially brought to you by FanDuel. As playoffs wind down, the sports betting season kind of slows down too. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking all customers up with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something in this for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. We get started in a conversation that is, of course, taking over precedence when it comes to national news, especially in the Big 12. I'm definitely, not going to make light of this thing entirely. I wanted to throw some shade towards the SEC way, but guys, this sucks. This sucks for all of us. Him, his family, his coaches, teammates, etc. But luckily, like many of you, I was equal parts concerned, confused, astounded, bewildered, irritated, whatever you want to say, upon hearing this, unfortunately, breaking news. The situation is wrong. It could have had life-threatening implications to both himself and any other people on the road. That can't be, underappreciated or understated. But let's collectively calm down with some of the sanctimonious responses to this young man's temporary stupidity. It was stupid, selfish, avoidable, unnecessary. But let's not all jump on our cool kid high horses and start casting stones. Like most of us have likely done significantly stupider things throughout our years in college and just were lucky enough to never get caught. He has now made life extremely complicated on himself for the 2024 season and potentially beyond. But let's not kid ourselves. He's not the first and he won't be the last that this happens to. He has a stacked deck against him now of achieving all of his goals before the season even starts. Therefore, whatever he's trying to do is now a monumental task, sure. But is it impossible? No, absolutely not. This is not new, even though it is certainly news. Just like it's, difficult news for anybody, for any fan base. Like, I think Makari Vickers is a good dude that's going to have stuff squared away for him in Norman. Georgia's Trevor Etienne is another 19-year-old kid that just rushed for like 1,472 yards and over 15 touchdowns. And with his brother's name being who he is, it naturally elevates the spotlight as well. So this season is going to be big for him. Guys, you can type in Florida, Alabama, Iowa, Ole Miss. They just had a five-star, recruit, number one player in the country, Centraine Perkins, who had a massive impact for his defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, whom also was dealing with his own DUI troubles. Again, this happens. And no, I know what you're thinking, but virtually no one is immune. That includes schools like TCU, Wake Forest, and even, yes, some of the prestigious ones like Notre Dame and BYU. They have these issues pop up occasionally as well. Now, some parents still say things like, do as I say, not as I do, because we all likely did enough stupid stuff growing up that we have a pretty good idea of what the avoidable ramifications are. Trial and error. Make mistakes and learn from them. It's repeating the mistakes that deserve the harshest level of scrutiny. It's all about the response because it, unfortunately, just happens. The road to redemption is part of the process sometimes, and his road to redemption has officially now begun. But again, he's not the first. He won't be the last. When people talk about how detrimental this could be to his Heisman campaign, yeah, possibly. But Alabama, Mac Jones, he had a DUI under the hard-nosed, old-school Nick Saban. He didn't get kicked off the team, served a little suspension, and then made a pretty successful Heisman campaign, finishing third in voting sitting in New York. Johnny Football Manziel Mania was a hot mess and already arrested and serving suspensions before he ever played a single snap in Aggieland, who went on to win a Heisman. Baker Mayfield, he didn't drink and drive, but he definitely didn't exactly gracefully drink and run either before his wildly successful Heisman campaigns. Guys, as you know, Cowboy faithful, we should get it. Eddie Sutton, right, at one point in time was so chastised and vilified that it cost him his rightful place among the stars in the Hall of Fame while he was still alive. And he was actually involved in like a traffic accident to boot. Now, thank God, Ollie wasn't involved in anything like that. But what did we all typically do? We condemned Eddie, of course, which is completely understandable, but we also rallied around him when the world attacked him so endlessly. Juwan Seals, awesome, phenomenal wide receiver. He was arrested on a DUI, passed out at a Whataburger with another Cowboy player in Juwan Offrey. Well, Juwan Offrey lied to the cops, gave him a false name. He got booted off the team immediately. Juwan Seals got another opportunity. He proved he was loyal and true, and we condemned Juwan Seals for his actions, which was also loyal and true. We then rallied around him. He was our guy who did something out of character that resulted in him getting attacked as a young, naive kid who was typically very squared away, and we didn't have any more issues. Mike Gundy doesn't play games in this category. Many could argue sometimes he maybe moves too daggone quickly on these decisions. He's the same Mike Gundy that kicked our only scout 5-star running back we've ever got off campus fairly quickly for stealing a teammate's bank card out of his locker. Gone. Tyreek Hill played a stupid game, and once his stupid prize was given to him, it took like 12 hours of him leaving after his arrest because they're hard lines that Mike Gundy draws, and Mike Gundy doesn't play. But when you take care of your own and you make one potentially monumentally life-changing mistake, as long as it comes from a real, sincere place, you're probably going to be okay. Now, we do have precedents for this exact situation and scenario, obviously. So I kind of wanted to read in Mike Gundy's own words what he said, you know, whenever this happened recently to Justin Blackmon. Well, somewhat recently. Mike Gundy's quote directly after, "It is unfortunate that this happened for him because he really is a good person." Gundy went on to say, "I wouldn't have had an issue with leaving him with my 3 sons at any time. I'd let him babysit in a heartbeat. He's a very caring person who's made a mistake and he's going to suffer the consequences." Later in, he said, "I think he understands now that he's elevated himself to the level nationally that when you make a mistake, everybody's going to know about it. When he does something, everybody in the country is going to talk about it." And he ended up serving a 1-game suspension and doing miles and miles of stair climbers and around the stadiums and extra conditioning. Him and Rob Glass got super close. This is probably going to be pretty comparable for what we see in Ollie Gordon. But Gundy stood by Blackmon, just like we can stand by Ollie, unless there's something absolutely crazy that comes out. But currently, based on all the information and the affidavit that has been made publicly available, we should stand by Ollie. We stand by the ones who do make stupid mistakes. We bet on the ones who are trending in the right direction. We get rid of the ones who are trending in the wrong directions. We stood by Bryce Williams, Marcus Dove, Trey Rucker, Tracy Moore, Eddie Sutton, and Pat Smith. Why? Because there is a path for second chances, because we are loyal and true to Cowboys, to Cowgirls, and to second chances. You don't have to have an orange and black bad A degree to bleed orange, enough to know what that means, what loyal and true is, how it feels, and what it stands for. Is this situation regretful? Yes. Dumb? Yes. Asininely idiotic even? Yeah. But also, it's an isolated incident. This wasn't a problem in high school. There wasn't a problem last year. He's never had issues in the locker room or coaching or having coachable moments. This is a teachable moment, both figuratively and physically. It cost him potentially millions. Millions from NIL, millions from draft stock, millions in Heisman voting, millions in commercial appearances, carries, opportunities in games, practices, etc. AKA less playing time means less potential when it comes to the paying time. This is now his rise from the ashes moment, right? Does he fold from all the negativity and pressure? Or does he turn this into a different level of determination? Does this cause Ollie to dive into the facilities even more, so much so that he almost has his own set of keys to the building instead of keys to any type of car? Does he lose an NIL deal now just to turn it into a glowing endorsement for how to embrace the suck, how to go through trials and tribulations, make a sacrifice that then turns Ollie Gordon into the face of all Uber-ish NIL experiences for collegiate athletes moving forward? Imagine the iconic new standard in the NIL era that turns this ride-sharing, don't drive momentum forward. I'm trying to look at the bright sides. I'm trying to figure out how he can turn this temporarily damaging moment into the Heisman dark horse redemption story of the year. This is, at this very moment, not good for him, not good for Mike Gundy or Oklahoma State right now. But what does this story morph into when November and December roll around? This is either going to be a cautionary tale of how fast things can rise and fall off of one major reckless mistake, or it could be a blueprint of how you can turn things around when everything you've worked for seems to be falling down around you. F all that business, Ollie. Screw all that noise. We got you, my dude. Instead of jumping on the, oh, he's so terrible, we should chastise him train, let's instead show him the same amount of loyal and true capabilities or ability that he showed us by returning to Oklahoma State for the Oklahoma State fan base after being offered more money in an SEC-sized biggie bag of cash than all of us will likely see in our entire lifetimes. He came back. He made sure that every single offensive lineman came back and got paid extra before coming back. He has helped elevate us to a new level in this CFP potential tier 1 system. That's perception. Perception is getting better. Now it's time to reciprocate it and show the love and why he should be extremely easy to root for, to cheer for, to find the brilliance on the other side of this, hope and stability for Boone Pickens Stadium. And the entire Big 12, really. I mean, heck, bright side here. For all the grumblings and, the mudslinging that is going to happen, take some solace in the fact that OU fans will try to talk about this ad nauseum, but fortunately for all of us, they are categorically exempt from being allowed to attempt to throw shade in this particular department. So in SEC country, this is almost a rite of passage. In SEC country, he might actually get a boost in the booster style support for this one. Cleveland County is now SEC country. That just wanted to give him the SEC treatment he magically has avoided until now. Interesting how it works out in the same county that Norman, Oklahoma sits in. But hey, at least we know that our main man, Ollie Gordon, a.k.a. OG, triple OG, OG Deuce, OG24 Heisman, is now officially certified SEC ready. All Cowboys in any sport do not drive in Cleveland County. We own them. We own Bedlam. We own this state, and they don't really take too kindly to that. So it ain't going to get any better anytime soon. So don't even mess around with the hooliganry that is Cleveland County, right? This is a cautionary tale for us people that might drive through that part of the country. What isn't a cautionary tale is FanDuel. How this affects Ollie's numbers and Oklahoma State's numbers, I don't know. But we're still going to hammer the over more often than not. Right now, as a lot of the sports are kind of starting to wind down, they're not sporting as much as we want them to be, right? FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. Well, that's right. There's something in it for everyone every day, all summer long. Make sure that you go head over to fanduel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. Every single day, have some fun. FanDuel is the official betting partner of Major League Baseball and almost everything else. Make sure you visit fanduel.com today. Look at the odds of Oklahoma State. Look at the odds of the Heisman. This likely will have an effect. To what degree, we don't know. So, yeah, we did bring up that quote from Mike Gundy, which I think does give us a decent indication as to where this would go. If this kid is problematic or there was something spotted in the evaluation process or recruiting process that had like a little asterisk as to maybe this could happen, then we get rid of them pretty quick. If somebody has a little bit of a difficult time with going to class and managing the workload and practices and doing the necessary stuff to take care of your body and nutrition afterwards, if things like that are problematic and then something like this happens, he's gone. Fortunately, we've had players that have had these scenarios pop up that do have good track records, that do have a good GPA, that do have a good understanding of the work that you need to put in, as well as the extra work that you're about to put in now because you put yourself in a precarious spot. Mike Gundy's typically okay with giving second chances if the situation aligns itself properly. And once again, from all indications, from all conversations, from all walks of life, from middle school, tiny tykes style of football to high school to now, this has never been an issue. Matter of fact, he's kind of bubbly to some degree, but he's also a little bit reserved. I know that might seem kind of crazy to some, but he's not this insanely loud, boisterous style of guy. Of course, he's confident, as he should be. He's the best running back in the country. But I think what this means is, I'm going to guess, a 1-game suspension and 733,000 miles in the stadium and on the Stairmasters. Now, you let me know down in the comment section what you think this should equal out to, but thus far, right, 82 and a 65, not smart. But if anybody's ever driven on I-35 between Dallas and Stillwater, or heck, Dallas and Wichita, Kansas City, doesn't matter. That's pretty normal speed. It's not normal speed when you've been drinking. You can't be drinking. But it wasn't a 1.1, right? That would be absolutely crazy. That would be one of those crazy scenarios that we kind of mentioned earlier that would maybe change the potential outcome of the disciplinary action that Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State might take here. This is going to have some negative effects on NIL, the packaging and things of that nature. He does have a lot of NIL opportunities at the moment. I don't know this again completely derails all that, but I highly doubt this is going to be a situation where he has, a little bit of a notebook of things that he's done wrong like this. This is out of character for him. And he has 2 ways to respond from it. We know how Mike Gundy traditionally handles these situations. So we know that if a kid's typically pretty squared away and doesn't have any major issues, he's going to get a second chance. And he's going to get a second chance with Rob Glass. And let's view it from a motivational perspective. If there was any lacking of motivation for Ollie Gordon entering the season, right, of what his aspirations are, maybe win a rushing record, get up in the pantheon of the record books at Oklahoma State with the Barry Sanders and the Thurman Thomases. Like, we know these are the reasons that he decided to come back. In order for all of that to happen, he now has to prove people wrong even more on a daily basis. So this chip on the shoulder that he's given himself can be used one of two ways. And I think, from all indications we've received thus far, this isn't going to be a reoccurring theme. This isn't going to be an obstacle moving forward. This should be just more motivation for Ollie Gordon. Because if you're not playing in the first game or the first few games, that means you're probably going to come out with a different level of anticipation and want to than you did previously. It's kind of like an injury. Oftentimes, when you have a catastrophic injury and it takes you away from the game for a little bit, it gives you more appreciation for what it takes to get in the game. Maybe this is one of those moments for Ollie. I mean, he definitely needs to take this opportunity to learn his lesson in regards to driving. If you're making that amount of money, why? Right? I talked about it a little bit last night in the live breaking thing. That's the most difficult thing I'm trying to wrap my head around, because there's surely no shortage of people that would help Ollie with a ride or an Uber-ish type of thing. So that part's perplexing. But what's not perplexing is the fact that Mike Gundy's going to give Ollie another opportunity unless this ends up being a thing in the newspapers that we never saw coming. But before we skedaddle on off of here, I found a couple quotes by John C. Maxwell I wanted to throw out here, and then we'll move into number 3 here. But there's a quote that says, "As the saying goes, God uses people who fail because there aren't any other kind of people around. If you know who you are, make the changes you must in order to learn and grow. And then give everything you've got to your dreams. You can achieve anything your heart desires. Lastly, errors become mistakes when we perceive them and respond to them incorrectly. Mistakes become failures when we continually respond to them incorrectly." It's all about the response. Just like the NIL stuff. Could he lose the McDonald's deal? Yes. Could he lose like the Raising Cane's deal? Yes. Could he lose some of the other things that he has lined up for his own personal profitability, marketability areas? Yes. But as I did, talk about a little bit yesterday, everybody loves a redemption story. Everybody loves the grab your bootstraps, rise from the ashes, make the most out of a terrible situation story. That could happen this year for Ollie Gordon. And I'm being pretty realistic when I say this should open doors for like the ride sharing style conversation on campus. Like, let's face it, in college, we do stuff more often than not, right? There's drinking and irresponsibility wrapped up in it. 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids aren't magically going to become uber responsive to, I don't know, not making mistakes. It's going to happen. So wouldn't there be some precautionary measures put in place now for campuses all across the country? There should be like designated things set up for these dudes. Again, I know nobody should be drinking under 21, and nobody should be driving after drinking anything. But all the condemnation, in my personal opinion, isn't super beneficial. We need to be loyal and true and have his back. He was loyal and true to us. What's more important is the rest of this story. Because, yeah, it could go south and it could get worse and he could get trouble again. And then he could, not be on campus. And then you're looking at a bunch of transfer style stories in the news later on. That could happen. But is that more likely than us having this conversation at the end of the season when we're talking about the Doak Walker Award or the Heisman Award or even ending up in New York or the best players in the Big 12, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, things of that nature? There's plenty of time for that story to take shape as opposed to the rise and fall real quick story that, of course, some people are going to be trying to put out there. This happens all the time across every campus in the country every single day. It is different when you're the face of a program. It is different when you're one of the faces of the running back position for the Heisman Trophy, the Doak Walker, and various other awards across college football. But you can take a negative and you can turn it into a positive, or you can let it eat you up. These are the options. From what I know, this is not going to be a problematic obstacle moving forward for Ollie Gordon. This is going to be fixable. And the amount of reciprocation he gets, I think, is perfectly suited for Oklahoma State country and the community like Stillwater. But anywho, this is the hot topic. That's all we're going to have on it for this one right here today. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay too. Most importantly, stop, collaborate, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcasting folks out there. You're the bricks, the foundation, the bread, the butter. Do what you do. Hit a star. Leave a review. Later, taters.